It's time now for Igniting Change, a weekly provocative and empowering program where you, the listener, can ignite change. Now here's your host, Barbara Unwine.
Get up, stand up.
All right now. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Igniting Change. We are so excited that you are here today for this program because it is time for good trouble. We're going to be talking about good trouble and why all of us are going to be showing up and showing out this weekend, beginning Friday, July 17th, all the way July 18th, July 19th. Oh, I just can't wait to get into this show. We have some exciting guests, and the subject could not be more pertinent in this moment. Oh, my goodness, good trouble. John Lewis, good trouble. All right, so let me bring up my mighty co-host, none other than Daryl Jones, who is the chair of the board of the Transformative Justice Coalition, who is also, thank God, he is one of our most strategic, smartest, boldest, energetic, committed, and one of the best attorney leaders you will ever meet in your life. I am talking about none other than Daryl D. Jones. Hey, Daryl.
Hey, Barbara, it must be Tuesday. It must be noon Eastern time because we're talking about igniting change. My goodness, Barbara, the country is being lit in John Lewis, good trouble. I'm looking, Barbara, they're coming in from San Francisco. They're coming in from Utah. They're coming in from St. Augustine, Florida. They're coming in from Tucson, Arizona, Chicago, Illinois. All over the place, Barbara. Utah. They're coming in from Utah. It's just incredible, Barbara, what's happening with regards to this moment that we are in. And most importantly, Barbara, it's important and just hats off to everyone who is saying, I'm going to step up to this moment. When our democracy is being challenged, when our rights are being threatened, when our voting rights are at issue, I am willing to step up and register people and be certain that folks know that election season is here. So hats off to everybody, all over nearly 600 activations across this country, Barbara, where people are standing up.
I am just so moved by this, everyone. What we're talking about is that this weekend, beginning on Friday, which is the commemorative anniversary, the 6th anniversary of the passing of Congressman John Lewis, who was known for his courage and his fight to sustain and expand voting rights. That was his obsession, was with our democracy. And when he passed, he left us a living legacy to keep on doing this critical work. And if you're sitting up saying, I don't understand why it's so hard for people to vote, I don't understand why friends of mine are being denied the right to vote, people, that's why we're getting in these streets, because we are going to make sure that every person we can touch, every person we can move, every person we can help is able to vote, able to register, able to vote, no matter what the obstacles are that have been turned out. And we're giving people a sense of community, that they don't have to sit by themselves saying, I'm alone. We're bringing in all of these events so that people can connect with other people, can get resources and help and knowledge, and can help other people who want to. People, this is our time. This is why we're doing this. It's so beautiful, and I'm just so overwhelmed right now with the almost 600 activations. Who knows, Daryl, what we're going to scratch over this next couple of hours, people who are still interested in hosting an event. You have until midnight tomorrow to get your event up on the Mobilize. You can go to goodtroubleliveson.org. Did you hear me? Goodtroubleliveson.org. Come on now. Let's do this. Let's rock this, Daryl.
Absolutely, Barbara. It's so important that in this time, in this moment, that we stand 10 toes down for democracy. And that's what I think John Lewis would be doing. No, strike that. That is what John Lewis did. He was the example on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, 10 toes down, facing the Alabama state trooper saying, I am here to protect and push for voting rights for black folk and everybody in this country. That's why on July 17th, the day that he passed, about 6 years ago, that's why on July 17th right now, we will stand 10 toes down in his stead for those same voting rights that he stood for on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, Barbara. That's what this is about, folks. We need you to go to goodtroubleliveson.org. If you see an activation in your community, join us. Sign up, register, get on mobilize. Say, I'm going to show up. If you don't see one in your neighborhood, if you don't see one in your community, put yourself down there, putting it together, call some friends together, whether it's 5 people or 5,000 people. We need people to be out there to let folks know that it's time to check your voter registration status. It's time to register to vote if you're not registered to vote, and it's time to be vote ready. Get vote ready, folks. Election season is upon us, Barbara.
All right, and we want people to understand that John Lewis was all about love. He was anti-hate. If you've been watching Mississippi and you're worried about the young black man who mysteriously was left by his white colleagues to die, who somehow died on an island while they had his cell phone, if you're worried about that, you need to understand that the last thing John Lewis did in his life that we know about is that he got out of his hospital bed while he was dying of cancer, and he went down to the Black Lives Matter Plaza, and he stood there, and he talked about Emmett Till, and he talked about the legacy of young black men and women being slain and not the murderers not being held accountable. Folks, these moments, they don't die. My pastor spoke this weekend. John Howard Wesley did a magnificent sermon out of 2 Samuel 22, and he reminded us that the giants keep on coming like Goliath, but that generation after generation has to slay the giants. And he talked about how that once Goliath was dead, that it didn't stop the Philistines from still fighting, and it was successive generations from David's lineage that was able to beat them back, giant after giant. And folks, we have to have that same determination. And that's why we're so glad that we got our show today and we got these guests we got today, because they could talk about this, because they're doing these mighty programs all around the country. And Daryl, let's bring up our wonderful, amazing guests, because we got some amazing people with us today. Let me bring up the first one. I want to bring up Minister Cameron Barnes. Oh, Cameron Barnes is one of these amazing young leaders. He's primarily a community coordinator in the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives at Chicago Public Schools. He also serves as National Voting Rights Advocate, National Youth Director of Rainbow Push. He is a Transformative Justice Coalition Fellow and Freedom Rider. He's Associate Minister and Director of Youth and Young Adult Engagement at the New Faith MB Church of Chicago. Cameron is hosting a 2026 John Lewis Good Trouble Lives On event in Chicago with many other TJC alumni. Welcome back to Igniting Change, Cameron Barnes.
Thank you so much, Attorney Arwan, Attorney Jones. Of course, I wouldn't be half of what I am today without Reverend Jackson and without Attorney Barbara Arwan and Attorney Daryl Jones. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. And Daryl, I'll bring up the next one, and you will bring up Ken. Let me bring up the amazing Kaden Ouimet, who has been just a force. I met this young man doing work. I was blown away by his organization, his spirit. He is the president of the Task Force for Democracy, a student organizer. He is a member of Public Citizen, works for Public Citizen. He has been organizing students for over 5 years to win a just democracy that works for our generation, not corporations and billionaires. Come on now. He runs campaigns he is currently involved with that include national anti-authoritarianism, campus organizing, expanding voting rights and fighting voter suppression, protecting D.C.'s autonomy, stopping a corporate-based constitutional convention, organizing youth to end money in politics, mass trainings for youth and communities to organize under autocracy, and teaching students to leverage transparency laws to hold power accountable. You heard that. Kaden recently held a pro-democracy student organizing training program. He has also been involved with past campaigns focused on student rights. In 2021, he's organized youth to protect Arizona's referendum process. In 2022, Casey Wan. He has been involved in election cybersecurity and protecting election officials from threats in 2024. You see what I'm doing every year. He has been involved in solidarity, divestment-related work, and post-election mobilizing in 2025. He is a wonderful powerhouse. I was blessed to be with him and 40 amazing students just this last Saturday as they were planning how they were going to go around the country and do amazing voting rights work and democracy preservation work. Welcome back to Uniting Change, Kaden Ouimet. Hi, Kaden. Okay. Kaden must not be on yet, or he might be mute. Oh, okay. All right. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, then Daryl will suspend introducing Ken. Let me find out what's going on with the rest of our guests. And Daryl, why don't you get started with Cameron?
Yeah, Cameron, so you're out there in Chicago, and this is not your first rodeo in dealing with the John Lewis National Day of Action. Can you share with our audience what you're doing this year? Because you're doing something different this year, Minister Barnes, because last year you joined up with Betty Magnus. This year you're doing something different. Can you share with our audience what you're doing this year?
Yes, sir. The entire Good Trouble Lives On weekend is going to look really different, I think, because if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time that through Transformative Justice Coalition, we're going to expand through the entire weekend to do the 17th through the 19th. Last year, of course, Chicago was the flagship city. You all were here in Chicago. Reverend Jackson was there. It was an amazing time at Daily Plaza. Thousands and thousands of people who lined downtown Chicago were there. This year, I'm still going to be with Betty Magnus on Friday, the 17th, as we're downtown again. But this time, now that we've expanded to our teaching, our reaching, and our preaching, my Sabbath day for the religion that I subscribe to falls on Sunday. And so on Sunday the 19th, yes, we're going to have our Good Trouble Lives On worship service in that. See, I'm the Director of Youth and Young Adult Engagement, as was mentioned, and our entire month of July is dedicated to youth and young adults. And so our Transformative Justice Fellow, Adarian Fambro from Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, is already slated to be with us. He was going to be our preacher anyway that morning. And then when we found out that this was Good Trouble Lives On weekend, we decided that we were going to make this a Good Trouble kind of service. So he's going to be our preacher. We're going to have Angel Edwards, another one of our amazing fellows. We're going to have Molly Duffy, that's here in Chicago, another amazing fellow. We're going to just have a wonderful service. What'd you say, Daryl?
And it's really going to be powerful as it goes on. And there are people that are listening now, Cameron, and they're thinking, I don't know if I have the ability to put something together. I've gone on to the goodtroubleliveson.org, and there's nothing that's going on in my area, but I don't think I have the ability to do this on my own. Can you share with folks what it takes and the support that's there if they choose to host an event in their community?
Oh, absolutely. Let me first say that if you think that you're not capable, I'm telling you that you absolutely 1,000% are capable of doing so. If you go to goodtroubleliveson.org, if you go to Mobilize, Transformative Justice Coalition and Johnita Dawkins and Yolanda Coley and all of our partners have transcribed a lot of spreadsheets that allow you to, the graphics are basically already done for you. You're able to go in and edit them for your specific details. If you're just having a worship service anytime that weekend, you can get registration, voter registration, and that is a Good Trouble Lives On kind of event. It is so many different avenues that can allow you to be useful even in this weekend. No, everyone does not have a huge stage outside with thousands of people and big monitors and all of the above, but I want each and every one of you all to know that your work is just as important. If you're able to register people, if you're able to then point them in the direction of where we're going, how they can get registered, if you're able to share the 72 and counting, I should add, forms of voter suppression with people and just make them aware of the political time that we're in, share their space for what they can do in the fight for democracy. All of these things fall into the Good Trouble Live On. There is no event too small, no event too big. And if there's not anything next to your particular area, I would implore you to go to goodtroubleliveson.org and be able to look and see what we have and what you're capable of doing. You know what you're able to do. If you can register people, if you can tell some people, if you can gather 6 or 7 folks, if you can go on a college campus, if you can go in a classroom and just be able to talk about these things in a nonpartisan way, you are going to be very valuable to Good Trouble Lives On weekend.
That's wonderful to hear. And I understand that we have been joined by another one of our guests. Daryl, if you would go ahead and introduce Reverend Kenneth Glasgow, who is the president of the New National Christian Leadership Movement.
Thank you, Barbara. Pastor Kenneth Sharpton Glasgow. Pastor Glasgow is an advocate for home reduction, prison reform, and the restoration of rights and opportunities for formerly incarcerated people. And he's the founder and president of the Ordinary People Society, TOPS, and TOPS Mama Tina's Mission House that has fed over 300,000 people in the past 15 years. 300,000 people fed in the last 15 years. He is the convener. Wow. He is the convener and the co-convener of the National Criminal Justice Coalition, the co-chairman of the formerly incarcerated and convicted people family movement, state partner for the Bottom Line campaign of DPA. He's a chaplain for the 2nd Congressional District, vice chairman of the Houston County ADC, just instrumental in registering over 120,000 formerly incarcerated folks to vote in the state of Alabama. Folks, Pastor Glasgow, his current programs and projects include the Criminal Rehabilitation and Reintegration Program, Grassroots Organizing, Early Intervention and Mentoring Program, Drug Prevention and Addiction Assistance Program, school programs, adult literacy programs, hunger and homelessness. Oh, my goodness. Pastor Glasgow simply doesn't sleep because he's always out there pushing and working for the community and being certain that they're properly represented and have an opportunity to excel. Welcome back to Igniting Change, Pastor Kenneth Sharpton Glasgow.
Amen. I was sitting up there trying to figure out who you was talking about then, Darryl. You went to talk about so much. I was like, wow. When you've been in this thing long as we have, man, you start forgetting all that. I was like, wow, oh, yeah, I remember that, yeah. But anyway, man, I just want to thank God for being on the show today, and I so look up to you and Dr. Arnwine. Dr. Arnwine has been in my life for a very long time, and she's been a mentor to me in more ways than I could even describe and tell y'all right now. But I just want to thank you so much for having me on, and we are very excited this week. I'm talking about everybody and their mama is getting all fired up. We down here in Alabama. We done went all the way from Montgomery with Bishop Henderson. We just talked to Sheila Tyson and Birmingham. We got the people over there, Miss Ray and all them in Huntsville fired up. We got people in Abbeville and Ozark. We got Jennifer and Tracy McLeod and Ozark Platinum Motors. They giving away food, doing the big time registration. Ashley Renee here and Dothan down there in Crestview, Florida. We got Miss Rolexis. And all of them are doing the big thing for the kids and a big Voters Day registration and all. And everybody is so excited to get in good trouble for good trouble coming up. But let me tell you this. On the 15th, Rodricia Russo, who's now the executive director of the Ordinary People Society, she has a Voters Day training. And we're going to be here right here at 805 North Alina Street at the TOPS headquarters. But also she's going to have it on their virtual. And we're going to ask y'all to come on because she want to teach some nonpartisan, some election protection, as well as some voter registration information and education. That's going to be on the 15th. Rodricia Russo is doing that right here at 805 for those that want to physically come. That's in Dothan, Alabama, but also it's going to be virtual. And Rodricia is going to be putting that information out. Dr. Arnwine, she'll be sending it to you ASAP as part of her Good Trouble Lives On expose. And then on the July 17th, which is her birthday, might I add. It's Good Trouble Day. She's going to have so she's going to have a happy birthday on Good Trouble Day. And she done set up a whole block party. Woo! I'm talking about a block party, y'all. We got the streets blocked off. We got entertainers coming. We got vendors. We got everybody, man. And we just prayed for Pastor Lynn bad knees, so he might get out there and dance a little bit with them bad knees. He used to have bad knees. We done prayed them bad knees off him now. So we might try to get him to dance. But I want to talk to y'all about something. There's a new front. And Daryl Jones, I know, stop me whenever you want to, because I know we don't want to let you. Go ahead now, I'm on the road.
Okay, let us bring up one of our other guests who we've already introduced, and we are just so glad that he has been able to join us. I am so glad that Kaden Ouimet is with us. Hey, Kaden, how are you?
Hey, Barbara, doing amazing. So great to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and I've already introduced you so people know about your amazing background. Can you just tell people, this weekend you had a room full of 40 young people who were amazing organizers who are from all these college campuses, and you guys were talking about Good Trouble. Can you tell us how that training that you put on with all of those wonderful, amazing young leaders, how does it, in your mind, correlate with the Good Trouble Weekend of Action?
Absolutely, Barbara. Thanks so much, and thanks again for having me. Yeah, this weekend, this is our second year of doing this, and I'm based out of Washington, D.C., and one of the things that's incredible about D.C. is we have this opportunity to bring together students who are here for the summer from all 50 states, whether it's Hill turns or interning for their member of Congress or their senator, to students who are working with nonprofits over the summer or students who are studying here. And so for the past 2 years, what we've done is bring together 40 to 50 students at a time and train them up on the mechanisms of campus organizing, right? We are at a time when authoritarianism is not only going after our voting rights and our immigrant community, it's coming after our college campuses, critical funding for our programs, for our DEI programs. It's coming after students on college campuses and immigrant members of our college communities. And so we know that if we look to movements throughout history and around the world, there's so many international examples, but even examples here in the United States, like the Student Nonviolent Coordinator coordinating committee, that students have been always on the front lines of fighting for a democracy that works for our generation and resisting authoritarianism. And so on that premise, we've been bringing students together, training them to be powerful campus organizers, everything from learning lessons that we can apply to our organizing from these international student movements to how we base build and turn apathy on our college campuses into action, how we build broad, diverse, and intersectional coalitions so we can unite our students around this democracy big tent, and how we strategically escalate under times of repression and authoritarianism. And so this past weekend, we had an all-day boot camp where we covered these topics and had an opportunity for these students to come up with plans to organize their college campuses in the fall. And how this connects to Good Trouble is that, remember, students have been on the front lines of the fight for the Voting Rights Act. It was John Lewis, who was on the Edmund Pettus Bridge as a student, who led the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. It was students who were on the front lines of winning the Voting Rights Act in the first place. And if we are going to not only win back the Voting Rights Act, but expand it again, students have got to be key to that fight too. And so students on our college campuses, I know it's been a critical time for the voting rights movement. It's been a difficult time for voting rights orgs, but the commitment that I and our students can make to the voting rights movement is that we are going to show up in our college campuses to protect the polls, to protect free and fair elections, and we are going to make sure that as our generation approaches 2028, the first year in which 100% of Gen Z will be eligible to vote, that we can vote
now
to protect our voting rights, to expand our democracy, and to make that promise real for everyone. And so those students who were with us this past weekend, they're going to be organizing on their college campuses to do just that. And this next weekend, we're encouraging them to join Good Trouble Lives On in D.C. And so you bet that we're going to be organizing as many young people, as many students who are in D.C. for the summer to be joining Good Trouble Lives On in D.C. and all across the country.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Daryl?
Yeah, Pastor Glasgow, you were listening to Kaden Ouimet and what he was laying out with regards to the youth, right? What these young voters are doing. Do you have a response to that? Because I know you're reaching not only young voters, but you're also reaching voters that are coming back into the system. What is your response to what you've heard?
Hey, I love what I heard, and I was sitting here applauding you, Kaden, because you just like me. You trying to get all in, you can get in while we on Dr. Armwine's show, because we know everybody listening. And if they ain't listening, they better be supposed to be listening. But anyway, my response to that is, Kaden, that's very good and grand, but we also have an offset as well as the young voters. And that offset that me and Darryl Jones is working on, and we're going to be doing it. Thank God Darryl is going to help me take it national, what we have done here in the southern region, especially in Alabama and Mississippi, is we have got it passed to where people that's incarcerated are able to vote if they have a crime not involving moral turpitude. I repeat, not, N-O-T, not involving moral turpitude. And that is a crime that don't cause harm to someone else. So they still could vote whether they're incarcerated in prison, in jail, or not. And we're going to go back and do a tour called the Freedom Faith Tour, and we're going all around this country registering people inside the jails and inside the prisons, depending on their state, that could register to vote and vote in this upcoming election.
Wow, I love that. I love that, because that's something that people can get involved in. Now, Ken, how do people get in touch with you to be part of that, to be part of that kind of tour, and to be part of that effort to make sure that we register all those eligible voters who may be in jail?
So what they would do is go to nnclm-org.net. nnclm-org.net, and they will sign up there at their website. They could give us a call, or either call me personally, 334-791-2433. That's 334-791-2433. Or if you can't get in touch with us and don't want to go on the website, get in touch with Dr. Barbara Armwine or Darryl Jones, and they will definitely get you in touch with me. We don't care where you are, what state you're in, what city you're in. You have people right there that are incarcerated that have fallen to one of the three categories that are able to vote.
And I am just so glad. I know you have to run, but before you run, I was on your call on Sunday night with all of those ministers, all those bishops, all those churches, and I heard the reports of all the events that people are putting on for John Lewis, Trouble Lives On. What do people need to know about the new National Christian Leadership Movement and how it is different in what it's trying to make sure happens with ministerial, spiritual activism?
So I want to first of all dispel the myth that dead and not alive. I want to dispel that myth first and foremost because the black church is well alive. And the new National Christian Leadership is the recitation for it. The resuscitation, for it. We have come up, we got over 1,000 churches now that is with us. We even just got, 100 churches that just joined us over there in Africa. We are a different kind of aspect because we're doing this in the spirit of oneness and in the power of love. We will redeem the morality and the soul of America through the power of love and the spirit of oneness. That's the new National Christian Leadership Movement. If you have not joined, then you need to join. If you're thinking about joining, then you need to go ahead and make the decision. And if you want to join, just go to the nclm-org.net or get in touch with Dr. Barbara Anwar, and you will be shocked, surprised, and you will be elated by the fact of seeing all these churches come together. We're building the kingdom right here on earth. We're kingdom builders and people partners.
My. Daryl, any parting words for our baby, Kenneth Glasgow, because he does have to leave. He was kind enough to come on for this first half of the show.
And thank you, Pastor Glasgow, for all you're doing. Looking forward to working with you and getting folks registered all across this country who have been toured impacted as we do this bus tour all over America. We will make that change, Pastor. We will make that change.
We just want to thank God for you, Darryl. If you just give me the instructions, you and Dr. Anwar, keep me out of jail, then we going to get it done, and we're going to register our people to vote, and we're going to change the dynamics, the politics, and all of the naysayers. Y'all just keep me going, and I'll keep at it. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
All right now. Good trouble. So, Minister Barnes, Karen Barnes, you just heard a wonderful program, and you know what you went through becoming a TJC fellow. And if you heard Kaden talk, what were some of the thoughts you had about how we continue to involve Gen Z? That was deep. I didn't realize this was the first year that all of Gen Z has become eligible to vote. Thank you, Kaden, for sharing that. But what does that make you think about Minister Barnes as someone who's always engaged in youth engagement?
Absolutely. I didn't know either that this was going to be that first year. And I'm so glad. I was just on Reverend Al Sharpton's show just a few days ago, less than a week ago, and I was telling him that we know, according to Brookings Institute, the nonpartisan think tank that conducts voter analysis, has released the study a little while ago that the Gen Z and millennial vote, 18 to 44 years old, is poised to be more than 60% of the eligible by 2036. Now, Kaden, what I was saying to Reverend Sharpton was the fact is we've got to move them from the 60% of eligible electorate to 60% of the participating electorate. And that's exactly what he is doing, because if we move from, it's not enough for them just to be eligible to vote and not exercising that right. If they are eligible to vote and we register them to vote, we inform them that they are informed voters and then make them practicing voters, then we're changing the entire landscape of the nation, because at 60%, there is not a bigger chunk. We cannot be wiped out because we have the numbers. If we vote the numbers and participate like we are supposed to and can, then we'll change a lot of this. And so I am always eager to talk about how we can inform Gen Z about what's going on. There are so many of them who still think, Attorney Arnwine, that their vote does not matter. Politics
I know.
is going to be decided, and we don't have to tell you all this. Everyone on this call knows about that, but we have a unique obligation, and that is to continue to inform them and let them know that we've got to move from 60% of eligible to 60% of participating voters in the electorate. So I'm so grateful for what Kaden is doing, because it needs to be done all across the entire nation. Every single Gen Z and millennial voter, we've got to touch them some kind of way, some kind of issue that brings it home for them. Reverend Jackson used to talk about the electorate and in regards to the demographic that he was talking to. When talking to high school students, he never brought up Social Security. He never brought up things that were going on with our elderly, if you will. But you know what he always did talk about is the issues that will come home to the young people that we will be talking about. He'd say you can vote more if you got more loans when you graduate college, then you need to be voting more for increasing Pell Grants. You need to be voting for increased student debt relief. You need to be voting for your fight for economic power, because we're graduating in an economic deficit. We've changed our language to fit the current events for those young people. And I believe all the time it's not that young people don't care, it's that young people don't know. When they know, they start to vote like we've never seen them before.
Those are some powerful words. And Kaden, what do you think about, if you look around at the Gen Z, then you know that means Gen Alpha's coming up, right?
That's right.
So what do you think that Gen Z ought to be doing to engage Gen Alpha?
And I want to clarify, it's going to be 2028. That's the first year that the entirety of Gen Z can vote. And that also means that's going to be the first year that Gen Alpha can vote too. And so as Gen Z organizers right now, we're on our college campuses. We're maybe the juniors and seniors and rising sophomores who are leading these voter registration efforts. And we got to be looking outside of our college campuses and to our neighboring high schools, to those who are feeding students to our colleges. And we got to be saying, let's do that outreach to them and make sure that they're prepared to be part of that agenda in 2028, because our focus cannot only be on registering our generation to vote in 2028 and, like the pastor said, making sure that they are an engaged and participating bloc, but we have to make sure that organizing momentum carries on into 2029, because we need to make sure that the new administration, the new Congress, prioritizes voting rights and a version of our democracy that works for working people and not corporations and billionaires. That needs to be front and center so we don't ever return to this state of our voting rights ever again. And so our generation has to turn that voter participation into organized momentum to make sure that agenda is followed through on. And Gen Alpha, the students on our high schools right now, are going to be key to that plan. When Renee Good and Alex Preddy were brutally murdered by ICE in Minneapolis, we saw high schools take leadership in a way we haven't seen in a long time. They were organizing walkouts in the thousands, right? High schools I'd never even heard of were walking out for the first time. And so we've been doing the work of absorbing those high school leaders, of continuing to train them to make sure that they can expand their bases. And we know that those high schoolers are going to have to take leadership when they come onto our college campuses into different areas of our community. And so that work starts now. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because we have to make sure that as our institutional memory is only 4 years in our college campuses or in our high schools, we need to be actively engaging, reaching out, and training the next generation of leaders that's going to carry that torch forward and make sure that the pressure is on to win a democracy that works for our generation.
Kaden, as your weekend program, Kaden, had students that were coming in from all over the country, we just wonder, was there a consistent topic, a consistent issue, a consistent concern that you heard coming from that assimilation of students from all over the country?
That's a great question. You mentioned it. Affordability is part of it, right? I'm looking at my student debt calendar, and I'm going to be repaying my loans until 2040. And I know so many other students who are doing the same. The Pell Grant is coming under attack, and so many Pell Grant recipients, including myself, are at risk of losing our federal funding for our higher education. So these affordability issues, having a livable future where our generation can have the hope of being able to buy a home and have food on the table, that's part of what's going to be driving our agenda. But what's holding us back right now is just as important. when we have ICE coming onto our college campuses, arresting and abducting our friends, our classmates, that is preventing us from organizing, from being out there in the numbers that we need to take on these material issues. And so just as important as winning that vision for affordability and freedom for our futures is protecting each other and keeping us safe on college campuses right now as we try to organize for that vision. And so I would say that those are the two threads, right? Protecting our freedom right now and winning that affordable future that majority of my generation, left and center, are really unified around.
Wow. And one other thing, Kaden, that I remember hearing all the students talking about that was one of the practical challenges. One thing, Daryl, and you won't be surprised, and neither will you, Cameron, that they all were talking about how to ensure that there are polling sites on every campus. Yes.
It's critical.
Can you talk about why? Yes.
When our generation doesn't have access to the ballot box, we're not going to be able to cast our votes for that vision. And I was speaking to a North Carolina A&T student last week who right now, North Carolina A&T and HBCU, their early voting site, their ballot drop boxes are being removed from their campus by white supremacist folks who are in these election decision-making positions and want to prevent black students from being able to vote. I also, a former colleague of mine, was the student organizer who won those early vote sites in the first place and was able, as a result, to get 100% of her class to register to vote and be part of that election. And so we know that ballot accessibility is one of the first steps that we can make sure that we transform that voter registration into voter participation. And we also are seeing this really targeted attack on being able to prevent youth, and specifically black youth, from being able to vote in these elections. And that's why it's critical that we protect our polling sites, and we also make sure we are providing and making students aware of the resources that they need to participate in elections, whether it's rides to the polls or where their nearest polling location that might be off campus is. That's the work that we have to do. But we can't just do it as a singular, students want to be part of community in this moment. And so we need to find ways to make voting part of our community building events. And so it is something that students can find togetherness in doing. And one of the things that right-wing organizations have been incredibly successful at is building community around building political power. And that's something that we have to do, whether it's finding reasons and ways to create joy in our organizing and bringing people in person and off their phones. Those are some of the first steps that we have to take. And whether that looks like music festivals on campus or whether it looks like creative actions or those are all things that we should be supporting students and creating resources to support students who are looking to do those things on campus right now.
I wonder, everybody, if we should have referendums mandating polling sites on campuses. I just wonder. We need to think about a way of, because this is a perpetual and very troubling problem. If I may, at this hour, turn our attention to a major subject. As we do good trouble, as we take to these streets, everybody, remember, we want you to go to goodtroubleliveson.org. Partner up. If you still want to host an event, you got until midnight tomorrow on Wednesday. If you really want to attend an event, you can sign them. And the beauty is there are events in your community that you can actually go to, but there are also virtual events that you can attend and participate in. So please, and on Saturday, as we mentioned, we're going to have the flagship in Atlanta, and we will have a national broadcast with some amazing leaders and amazing speakers. And one of the issues that we will be talking about is ICE and what ICE has been doing and why thousands and thousands of people are in the street already protesting the slayings in Houston and the slayings in Maine. And I want to talk for a minute about why this issue has captivated so many people's attention and why it is that all of us can't just sit around and say, I am not an immigrant. But why does it affect all of us? So why does the murder, the killing of Lorenzo Salgado Arogo be an issue that we should talk and care about? Why does the killing of Joan Sebastian Guerrero also. It's an issue that we all should care about. Kaden, you mentioned ICE on campuses. You mentioned what it does. Why do you see this issue as having sparked such a concern that nationwide people are not only taking to the streets, but they're planning a major activation on July 25th?
Yeah, it is something that we know if they are coming after our classmates, if they are coming after our friends, it means at some point they can come after us. And whether we are part of an immigrant community or not, we know that ICE is still being dangled in front of us as potentially surrounding the polls this election season, or has still been going after citizens. And ICE is this manifestation of this authoritarian threat, and it is incredibly visible and tangible. And I think that's part of why it has catalyzed so many of our community members to organize against it. But part of this is that we need to recognize that the ICE does not distinguish between the barriers between our campuses and our community, and that students have to be part of the community organizing infrastructure to keep each other safe. We keep us safe at the end of the day when our institutions are failing to protect our rights. And as students, we need to be doing that outreach to community leaders and making sure that we are sharing our mutual aid and our resources for our campus and community members, that we are coordinating our response. In D.C., we saw that with the National Guard deployment, that students in collaboration with the wider community came and had walkouts to protest the National Guard and ICE surge in Washington, D.C. last September. And we have to use those moments as ways to bring students and community together to spark long-term collaboration. And when we have those pieces in place, then we can go a long way to protecting each other, but also continuing to organize against this threat and hopefully to vote against it this November and beyond.
Woo! And Cameron, thank you so much for that, Kaden. And Cameron, you're Chicago was under occupation. Your mayor has been really active. We had that whole assault on the apartment complex that was horrific. You have seen this. What do you want to say about this particular issue of ICE continuing, as they did in Chicago, to shoot into cars, wound people, but here they kill people? And then we remember in Chicago they lied about it, and we're caught lying. Can you elucidate how you feel about this moment?
I want to echo what Kaden is saying, and I want you to know, since we've been on this call, I've already gone to Kaden's LinkedIn. I've connected with him, and I've followed him, and now I'm going to be reaching out to him because we're organizing students right now at Rainbow Push, and Kaden is just an amazing person, the work that you're doing is incredible. But I want to say, though, that I echo those same sentiments. We are seeing the weaponization of this office, and they're completely, let's just call it what it is, terrorizing some of these communities. Yes, each and every one of us in America would agree that, yes, if there were violent criminals that were a threat to our nation that had come here illegally, that, yes, we would want them removed, but and just as much as it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And the way that they are going about doing this has constantly proved over and over again that there's holes in this logic. Let's just call it what it is. They are grabbing people without any kind of previous knowledge of who this person may be. They are killing people on a regular. They are grabbing innocent folks, people that are actually citizens and whatnot. There is no kind of lens, no moral lens that they are looking through. And we're going to have to be able to say something about this. I'm grateful to our mayor and the administration here in Chicago that has pushed back on ICE as much as we can, and we're going to continue to do that. And also even at Chicago Public Schools, where I work, where we have also utilized this same thing, that we will not comply with these ICE raids, if you will, terrorist attacks, if you will. These have become an office of domestic terrorism, and I'm going to say that right out loud. It has become an office of domestic terrorism. And we have to call it like it is. We have to continue to organize, Kaden has said, and make sure that all of us are, first of all, informed. There are so many Know Your Rights segments and sessions that are going on all across Chicago, because what we want to do is inform the people and let them know when their rights are being violated and what they have the right to do in those kinds of situations. And that's what we're going to have to do all across the nation, because at the end of the day, they're going to thrive, and they, the powers that be that work against us, are going to thrive off of our ignorance. But if we know how to fight back and do it legally and do it professionally, if you will, then we have a chance. But
can I add one real quick note on top of that?
Yes.
That these part of what I appreciate that you mentioned Chicago Public Schools, because we saw when we were organizing students around May 1st, around May Day, that we were bringing together students and workers across over 160 campuses in this country. 100,000 students plus participated. But what we especially saw was from Chicago Public Schools, from the Madison, Wisconsin Public Schools. We saw from over 10 school districts in North Carolina that they canceled classes for May Day. And what they were saying in that moment was, to the Trump administration, get your hands off our students and our workers, and that we are not going to pre-obey or pre-comply to your agenda. We want to protect the rights and provide that safe space for students and workers to walk out and organize. And when we can, as students, they're going after our student activists. We know they went after Columbia student organizer Mahmoud Khalil and Mohsen Maldawi, but they are going after so many others whose stories are not being told right now. And as students, they're targeting our activism because we can spark resistance to Trump, as we have throughout movements throughout history, and that when we can get our campuses, our institutions to take this position from being of compliance to one of resistance to the Trump administration, in doing that, they are able to delegitimize his efforts and provide that safety that we need to organize.
Oh, that's incredible. And Kaden, you're right on point. Thank you so much for being with us today. Kaden, if people want to get in contact with you, how do they get in contact with you?
Absolutely. My email is KOUIM for Mother ET at citizen.org. You can also, if you're interested in getting involved, or your campus organization is interested in getting involved in doing this work of organizing our generation, students and workers across college campuses and high school campuses across this country, go to frontline4freedom.org. That's frontline4freedom.org, and we'll get you plugged into the network and provide the resources, the training, the coaching, the support, and the coordination that we need to take unified action as our generation to resist these authoritarian attacks on our rights and win a democracy that works for us.
And Cameron, the same question of you. If people want to get in contact, they've heard this pastor from New Missionary Baptist Church in Chicago preaching. How do they get in contact with you? How do they attend that service? How do they attend the program that you and Reverend Adarian Fambro are having?
Absolutely. The best way, go to my Instagram, CAMB, C-A-M-B as in boy, period, number 8. CAMB.8 on Instagram. You will find all of the different other links. You'll find it with the church and with Rainbow Push and all, and we'll be able to stay in contact just like that. Like I said, Kaden, I've already sent a connect to you on LinkedIn. We need to talk before the day is over.
Let's do it. Thank you.
Yep. So thank both of you so much for being with us today. Thank you to Reverend Kenneth Glasgow for being with us today as well. Folks, we say it again. You heard them talking about the folks that have been killed by the ICE agents, and we know that there are several other ones. But the question is, how many more? How many don't we know about? We can recall when they were looking for Goodman, Cheney, and Schwerner down in North Mississippi. They found a whole bunch of other bodies before they found them. How many more bodies are out there? The response to ICE, the response to the challenges on our voting rights is this. This weekend is to get into the streets, to get into good trouble, to have your voice heard, to raise your rights, to let them know that when they try to put you in fear of authoritarian tactics, that you won't have it, that you will stand up, you will have the courage, because courage is contagious. We look forward to all of you joining us next Tuesday, noon Eastern Standard Time here on WOL. Peace, everybody. Get in the streets. GoodTrouble.liveson.org.